So today I am joined by Sarah Witbeck, who is a writer, a world builder, and probably one of the most eccentric players that I've ever sat at the table with. She doesn't just play characters, she becomes them entirely. And you did tell me before this that you're going to be launching a new campaign this mid-October.
Yeah.
So I would say I'm super excited for that, but I wanted to welcome you on the podcast officially. We've only played together, I think, a few times, and I think you were just on one of the campaigns that I was playing with JD and Keith.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of wanted this episode to be about, in my mind, the best characteristics that you reflect, which is breaking down walls and, thinking outside the box. So welcome on the podcast.
Thank you. I feel quite welcome.
So, Sarah, what initially got you into D&D?
I got an invitation. Sometimes you do things because you want to be with friends and you're like, I don't know if I'm going to be into it, but we'll give it a shot because I like these people. I had heard of D&D before I got invited to it, but it didn't have a grid for what it was outside of I guess a bunch of people sit around a table and act like characters and roll dice, which is a pretty good description of what it is on the surface. If you have to explain it to your parents. So I think I got into it. It was probably 5 or 6 years ago, but I'm really bad at personal timelines, so could be a little off.
Could have been off.
When I started, I definitely was just trying to get a grid for the mechanics of the game, so stats and dice rolls and how to build a character with a character sheet. Of course, I picked a spellcaster cleric. So I was like, I know that I would be a good support role. Don't put me in the front lines. I'll just heal everybody and you go smash things. It just felt like a reflection of something that was already close to my soul. So I also recycled the character from a collaborative story I was telling with friends that ended up just fizzling out. So I played a really reserved, really old elf man.
Your first character was a man.
Yeah. Well, because I was like, this is the character I'm recycling, and he's a guy, so I guess I'm just going to play as a guy. And then I quickly realized I can't do a male voice, but it's fine. You just kind of pitch it down.
What did your old man voice sound like?
He kind of just talked like this. A little more flat tone, low affect, really serious, no nonsense, please stop annoying me kind of guy.
That's awesome.
Yeah. He also never talked about anything personal, even though I gave him this really dramatic backstory. And I was like, I guess they're never going to know. Who's going to know? They're never going to know.
So when you first started playing, would you say that you were more into the roleplay side of things, or did you really kind of dive into the mechanics? What did you feel appealed to you the most?
I wanted to get into the roleplay side. I think because our group was all pretty new to it, we were all just kind of figuring it out.
Yeah.
We got more into the roleplay as things went on, but also sometimes the characters that people choose, it's I don't know if they would have stuck together as a party if we hadn't been playing a campaign together. If these were characters in real life people, they probably would have parted. So I let go because they weren't super compatible.
Yeah.
They got along because they had a mission, but sometimes that happens in real life too. Where you're together only because you have to be. Family is sometimes like that, but the Lord gives grace for those things.
Most definitely.
Yeah, that was my first campaign.
How do you feel as someone who's maybe a little bit more animated at the table, what would you say is some of the weirdest character choices that you've made?
Funny thing, I'm actually not always super animated depending on the character that I play.
It's 100% depending on the character.
Some of the weirdest choices I made are probably when I played a goblin rogue. I was really pushing myself to go outside of my comfort zone when I made her. I was like, we're gonna go chaotic alignment, which I can go there. The problem is it's hard for me to go chaotic when I'm in a group when everyone else is chaotic. My heart is like, we need to balance the dynamics. There has to be the straight man. There has to be the not like sexuality, more like, anyways.
He's a man who is by the book.
Yeah.
He's the rules follower.
There needs to be someone with a stick up their butt, and there needs to be someone who's a loose cannon.
Definitely.
And if everyone's a loose cannon, then you just become murder hobos and you lose the story.
Definitely.
But yeah, some of the decisions I made with my goblin rogue, I'm like, man, I know that I made her this way, but like I'm experiencing secondhand embarrassment. At some point, she just had like really low self-respect, and she was like very content to sleep in a dog bed.
Oh my God!
And did not think about it twice. She was like, "It's a place to sleep, and I'm small."
And so you do what you have to do.
So you do what you have to do. But also, like, she did not take a bed when it was offered to her. She's like, I'm comfortable here. She also, like, really spontaneously had the weirdest, awkward moment with a guard that she ended up, like, they ended up flirting, but it was like he could read minds, so they were talking telepathically, and it happened when he caught her trying to steal something. I like to not relive those moments, but it's okay. She also stole a lot and like just was fighting dirty.
But she's a rogue. It's part of the character.
Rogue.
You steal things, you run away.
Yeah, I guess that's not anything too crazy.
No.
Mostly you're like, any crazy things you've done, I'm just like reliving all of the moments that I am embarrassed about.
What do you feel like keeps you coming back to playing D&D? Like, what do you love about it most?
I like the moments of connection I experience with my friends. And also there's something really special about seeing other people act as characters because you learn about them. Definitely. By the decisions they make while they're acting spontaneously. When things are improvised, even if you are trying to act out a character, I feel like you just see a different side of your friends with how they decide to play a character. Even if it's not a representation of their true selves, it's a representation of how their mind works.
No, definitely. I think sitting at a table, you really get to see the choices that people would make and how they think.
And how they think other people would think.
Exactly. Or how they would interpret how their character would make a decision.
Yeah.
Where maybe the way that I interpret the way you play your character, I wouldn't think they would make that choice, but you do. And so it's this kind of unique give and take where you get to know people, but you definitely get to tell a story together and learn the type of stories that people like to tell.
Yeah. Yeah. I like seeing what kind of like backstories people come up with. As I've been preparing for the campaign that I'm going to run, I'm just like, feed me. Feed me with your backstory lore, and I will weave it into everything. I'm going to make you hurt. I'm going to make you cry. I'm going to make you laugh, hopefully, with tears of joy. But yeah, I love just treating characters' backstories like a launching pad for the rest of the campaign, because I think the most enjoyable moments are really when characters get highlighted and get to shine. Whether it's in their greatest failures and losses or their greatest successes and joys. So,
no, that's amazing. So tell me a little bit about your campaign. What is the setting? What is the... Yeah. Give me a sneak peek into what the story is going to be about.
It's a homebrew, and it's set in a fantasy world that's existed in my head since I was 17. That's a good decade or more. Do the math.
You do not have to tell the viewers your age.
I think I just did. But anyways, it's a fantasy world that originally started as a role play, not in a D&D setting,
Yeah.
but in like a writing setting. I don't know if you ever did this thing as a kid where you went into online chat rooms and just talked to strangers.
Yeah, back in the primordial days of the internet.
Right. Before you realize, like, I don't know, you could be talking to AI. But so I met a friend online who had some characters and stories, and I also had characters and stories, and we tried writing two of our characters together in the story, and that kind of launched into a big thing that eventually became a book that I'm working on. But the fantasy world that it all was set in is what I'm using for the campaign now. And it's more of a low magic fantasy setting. There is magic, but it's not school-based the way that D&D is.
Yeah.
It's more...
Would you compare it to Tolkien?
No. Like, you ever seen Avatar: The Last Airbender?
Yeah.
The magic system is, like, super similar to that.
Where it's like, it's elemental.
Yeah, and it's more... it's like, it's a genetic thing. You either got it or you don't.
Yeah. That's super cool.
And there's gonna be a party of monster hunters.
Ooh.
That's the premise, is that everyone that's playing is gonna be in that monster hunting party. And the monster hunting is mostly just to help establish like setting and a plot thread to pull people along. Fighting monsters, but there's other stuff happening.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Can you give me a secret that nobody else in the campaign, none of the players will know?
Like,
Can you take the curtain a little back? I mean, it doesn't have to be the whole thing. It can be just a little peek behind the curtain.
I'm really bad at like minor spoilers because my brain goes immediately to the big ones.
You go to the massive world-ending story crashing spoilers.
I mean, I have created some characters that are going to be hopefully foils to the players' characters.
Yeah.
I just want to like put a mirror in front of them that's like, this could be you if you made some different choices.
Ooh, that's interesting. So kind of like the idea of like their alternate selves.
Yeah. Like
their lives taking a different turn.
Like for better, for worse. Yeah.
This is who you could be. I mean, I feel like that's normal. I feel like life mirrors that.
Yeah.
We see people. I mean, I think of this when I'm trying to like write a story, or when I think of telling a story at the table. I think of building characters that have my faults.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about what would happen if I was really, I don't know why, but a lot worse in this area. And what does that look like?
What if I just had no self-control?
Yes. Or what if, no self-control. Or my character has no filter on what they say. Or my character, for some reason, I don't know, cannot stop stealing things in every single room.
Kleptomania.
Yeah.
The classic rogue feature.
Yeah, exactly. And my favorite type of character is originally a bard, but was more of a roguish type person who is charismatic and tries to convince people to do what they want them to do. So then it's like, what if you're like...
I remember that guy.
What if you're like this crazy mastermind?
Yeah. Isn't that like every DM though?
Probably.
I'm not that you have to be really smart to be a DM, but you have to have a little bit of that crazy mastermind in you.
Yeah. You want to be the puppet master. You want to orchestrate the story and watch it kind of happen.
It's like minor God complex, but as a Christian, I realize I can't indulge that too much, which is why instead I became a writer.
So how do you feel like Sarah, how do you feel like writing has affected the way that you approach D&D compared to other players?
I definitely think more about the story than the stats. I do want to build the stats in a way that makes sense for the story. I want it to serve the narrative, but I don't want to make it all about making my character as strong as they can be, because unless if that is their defining trait where they're like, I'm on the grind set mindset,
Yep.
work harder, get smarter, unless if that's their whole thing, you really want to build their stats so it's more about what would be fun for the story.
Definitely.
So I'm thinking about decisions my character can make that would make sense for how I, made their personality and their motives. I think the big thing I think about is what is a character's motive? Because in storytelling, if a character doesn't have a motive, the story runs dry and it's not engaging.
Definitely.
They need to have a strong motive for anything. So with D&D, they have those, ideals, bonds, whatever the list is. Really, I feel like I summarize that up as what's their big motive? What's the thing they want most? And what's driving them through life? What's their compass? And so whenever I make a character, that's what centers me. But I also like to think about what other people's characters' motives are as well. As a DM, that's what I'm writing down for NPCs. So that way I have a little compass for how they might respond on the fly. But also you can have a moral compass and a motive, and something can happen and you just do something even you don't expect. It happens in real life all the time. So I'm not using that as a strict rule, but it happens all the time. People can even betray themselves, but they'll feel that. So then you have to play that out.
Because I think people make decisions all the time where you go against maybe what you would say is your best judgment because you want to achieve something or you want something. And so it's kind of like, what's the greater motive? And sometimes in characters,
at a deeper psychological level.
Yeah.
What do you want more, to do what's right or to be safe?
Yeah. And so that people will make decisions that their character might not make. They might not know in the moment, this is the decision I would have to make. If it's between, the big bad boss wiping the entire team or wiping that one character who really annoys you. Even though you're a cleric who's the rules follower, maybe you'll sacrifice that one person at the table to save everybody else.
Yeah. It's a true test of character.
So you've created this entire fantasy world. Do you feel like that makes you a pickier player? Or do you feel like
picky in what way?
Do you feel like when you're not DMing, because you're a writer, you have all the story knowledge and focus on kind of opening that up, do you feel like you appreciate other DMs in the way that they tell stories? Or do you feel like you sometimes look at them and I want more, give me more? Or do you not care?
I do appreciate strong storytelling from a DM if they really care about the narrative. And I don't know, I think a good DM prioritizes the character development of the players.
Yeah.
Which is ultimately what makes a good story, in my opinion.
Yeah.
More than just having a strong plot.
Totally.
So some of that's on the players. The players have to have vision for how they want their character to grow, and different paths even in their head for where their character could grow, because sometimes you have an idea and then things happen that you don't expect and you're like, well, I wanted them to do this, but things have been happening. And they might make different decisions.
They might not, just like people in real life.
Yeah. Everything's just too close to home. Anyways, I appreciate it when a DM is able to tell a good story.
Do you feel like when you play, because you're a writer, do you feel like you're there for the story?
Yes, 100%.
So you'd be fine if there's no dice or anything, if it was just story.
Honestly, yeah, the dice are really, for me, just a tool to keep the story interesting in the sense that I'm not making things go my way all the time.
Yeah. I feel like the dice sometimes want to go contrary to the story.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say it's necessarily contrary to the story. It's more like wording. Like in life, you kind of have to be the master of your own story, not in the sense that you're narrating it. That's a god's job.
Yeah.
But you get choices and you just have to figure out what to do next. And it doesn't mean that that's the end all be all either. Failures are one of the best crucibles for character. And when the dice don't go your way, I think that's where some of the best moments happen.
Definitely.
In storytelling. So, yeah, it sucks when there's a TPK. But
yeah, I mean, I would think nobody wants their character to die, especially if they're attached to the character.
Yeah. But if they do die, then it's interesting to see how everyone else responds to that if they survive and you don't.
So I'm going to ask you this because it is a writing trope.
Yeah.
If they die,
yeah,
do you like them to be just dead, or are you fine with they come back?
Personally, in my world, I've made it really hard for people to come back.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you're dead, just stay dead.
Stay dead. Do you hate it when like stories bring them back? Like it feels like their death has less weight because
I think it does.
It cheapens the scene.
I don't know if it cheapens it, but it's like, I think it speaks more to people's ability to like metabolize grief and loss. I know fictionally people usually want to escape those things.
Definitely.
Because the real life pain is hard and I don't want to have to deal with that when it's fake too, you know?
No, but I think sometimes it gives you the place to process it.
Yeah.
Where it's not directly related to your own personal life grief. I think for me, I would tend to lean towards if a character dies, I want it to make sense for the story and I want it to have emotional weight so that it actually is something that propels the rest of the characters forward and not something that is taking away from the story by maybe. Now I get players don't want to obviously lose their character, especially if you play a character for a long period of time, you grow attached. But,
that's interesting.
You don't. Why?
I find myself getting less attached.
Really?
The longer I play a character. And it's not just because I'm like eager to move on, but I'm like, they're just a character.
That is super interesting.
I get excited about things on the front end because I'm like, I really like coming up with basically a new little person in my head.
Yeah.
And I want to figure them out, what makes them tick. But because I don't know, I'm just like, whatever happens to them happens, and we just figure out where they go.
Yeah. No, I think that totally makes sense. I think no one likes their character to die, but I think it also depends on the person.
I definitely got a little. I made it harder for one of my DMs because I was like, I don't necessarily want my character to die, but she kind of wants to die, so I kind of have to play it.
No, I think if it makes sense for the story, it makes sense to just go there.
Yeah, I'm like, she just doesn't have self-preservation, so she would be stupid. Yeah, and she was. Sorry.
So loud. No, you're totally fine. So you don't get attached to your characters.
I try not to.
You try not to? So even your first character, like your first D&D character.
I definitely like have a little fondness in my heart for him.
Yeah.
And you know, in whatever fictional imaginary worlds, I imagine he's off there like just being grumpy in a cottage and trying to figure out what to do with the other 400 years of his life because he's an elf or whatever.
Yeah, because he's massively old.
Yeah. He's just like taken up every old person hobby possible. That's where I think he's at right now.
So he's crocheting
Yes.
and gardening.
Yes.
And also like
has like 2 goats.
2 goats.
He doesn't drink goat's milk. He just has the goats to take care of them. It gives him something to do.
That's super interesting.
He's probably lactose intolerant at that point.
Why?
Because a lot of times people get lactose intolerant later in life. I don't know why, but people's bodies do things.
That's a real thing?
Yeah. Don't you have like friends with you know their health history?
No. I'm not like, hey, can you share your personal health?
I guess you should know a lot of people that
lactose intolerant
that really like sharing their health histories. So unique life experience, not universal.
No, but I think that's a funny way to think of the character's ending.
Yeah.
What would you say then? Do you think, like, would you ever play that character again?
I would have to imagine a new story arc for him. I think for him to grow, he would need other characters that would push him towards connection because he kind of was a recluse and then remained a recluse.
The entire time?
In terms of like open to emotional connection, that was a big no. And just in general, he was trying really hard not to get attached, which, you know, is a pretty common trope with characters that are really old, that are around other mortals, like super, super common. People do it all the time. But yeah, I think for him to grow in a way that would be interesting and fun to play, he would need to be thrust into an environment and community of people that would force him to have to care again.
I could see that happening. You could do like a baby Goku thing.
Baby Goku?
Yeah, where like he gets
I've
randomly.
Never seen that.
You've never seen Dragon Ball GT?
Dragon Ball GT.
I mean, essentially, like it would be where like he gets youngified, where he gets turned back to being a young man.
Boom! You're a baby again.
But basically
Infancy.
goes back to being a child.
So
but he has the
infantilize him?
experience. Not necessarily infantilize him, but you know, he goes back to being more of like a younger person, and now he has all this knowledge.
We'll call the campaign Back to Baby.
But then he can experience the world through like new eyes, and I don't know.
That childlike wonder.
Yeah, or I feel like I think one of the most common tropes for like characters that are older is they think about like, if I could go back, what would I do when I was younger, type thing.
People are having those kind of crises in their 20s these days, but yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a common thing. We look back. I think a part of why we like to tell stories is because it allows us to sometimes relive things or make different decisions, go back in time.
Process your regret.
Yeah, in a healthy way where it's like cathartic and you can go back and deal with it in a way that you rewrite the story and how the decisions you would have made, or you make it worse, depending on what type of character you come up with.
Or what kind of person you are.
So you don't have a favorite character?
I don't know if any of the characters I played in D&D campaigns are my favorite. Probably the ones that I've written in my stories are a little bit more of my favorites. I also think in the stories that I write, I of course have more control because
you were the
even in the ones that are collaborative, you're just able to take things slower with your writing versus the improv on the spot acting. You just get to think things through more. Which there's pros and cons to it because with the improv, like sometimes things just happen and you're like, well, I don't know if I would have made that decision if I had been given like 10 more seconds to think, but now that's happened and we're rolling with it. Whereas with writing, sometimes you pause and think, what would make sense for the story? What would serve it best? So
When you DM, would you say that you prep a lot? Like, do you like write a lot backstory?
yes. Well, okay, so I've only actually DM'd one shot so far. So this is
dang.
going to be my first time doing a full
That's
campaign,
exciting.
which is exciting. I anticipate there being a big learning curve in terms of growth for me. So right now I am doing a lot of prep, but it's more of fleshing things out with detail than having to do a bunch of world building. I don't want to hold the reins so tightly that characters can't make decisions. So I'm trying to prepare for a lot of freedom, but also have direction to throw at them so they're not like aimless and I'm not just looking at them like, okay, now go live life. You know, like
Yeah. So you're not necessarily a sandbox where people can go do whatever they want.
Yeah, I guess it's somewhere in the middle.
Somewhere in the middle. But you're not hard narrative, meaning like a player could come up with a better or a supporting narrative that could be stronger that they might follow.
What decisions they make.
So do you think that character decisions should drive the story forward, or do you think,
in my opinion, yes.
In your opinion, yes.
Like your decisions that you make in life are what tell the story.
So that only makes sense that when it comes to D&D, that would kind of,
for me, yeah, that's what makes sense. I don't want to be so like controlling over the story that I railroad them when they're like, no, my character would do this instead. And I'm like, well, I guess that's the story now, you know?
Yeah. But do you have key plot points where you're like, this must happen?
For me, it's more like I'm planning encounters.
Yeah.
Which is very much the D&D language. I have like places, people, encounters that are going to happen, and the story that gets told is dependent on how they choose to react to those things.
How they choose to make the decisions.
Yeah.
No, I think that's typically the way that I tend to want to do things. I tend to be really off the cuff because I don't want to pigeonhole players into a story.
Yeah.
But I tend to be one of the least prep people that I know.
Oh dear. Do you have anxiety?
No, I think more of I tend to, I mean, I would probably call myself a writer, but I love to like figure out a story.
Yeah.
And I feel like I tend to get married to stories. And so if I put all this time and effort and it doesn't play out the way that I want,
okay.
I'm like, you're bad actors. But I'm trying to realize when you're at the table.
Yeah. You don't want to commit to it so hard.
Yeah. Because then you're like, this is my golden child. This is my, what you think is the greatest plot twist in, human history to your characters. They're like, nah, we want to adopt this goblin. We want to make him our little pet and carry him around everywhere. We want to go start fights and all
some good things to think about and things of self-reflection with that specific thing in particular. But
yeah, no, it's one of those things where I tend to struggle with it. So I tend to push more towards, I'd rather embrace not knowing what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I mean, I like to have some ideas thrown in there, but I love the idea of kind of just thriving off of what the characters give you, because then they'll tell you the story they want to tell.
Yeah.
Because if you don't find like combat fun, and it's the part of the game where you're like, this is the least fun part. I really want to get back to the intrigue and the politics of the king's court and all that stuff. But you're like, man, I'm stuck in this combat encounter. That might not be what's important to you as a character. But if you're the person who's like, give me more combat, and it's all about, slaying mobs of goblins, and you kind of view D&D as more of a video game.
Yeah.
That might be what you like.
Yeah. I think it's part of that too is you have to find a group of people that value the same approach to the game.
Yeah.
So that way there's compatibility of values and
definitely
why you're playing the game. I do think it's interesting, slight bunny trail, how over the past few years as D&D has become more mainstream, it's maybe evolved more into a storytelling device as opposed to a tactile board game, video game kind of experience.
Yeah.
I was not someone that played D&D in my early years or in the years of its, youth when it was really first becoming a thing. But I've seen what it's become now. And now I think a lot more people are treating it like a way to tell stories, which I think is great. It's a fun way to tell stories with people.
Yeah, I think to me, it's one of those things that I think is naturally something that we tend to want to do is tell stories.
Yeah.
And I think you can definitely make it tactile. You can make it about the combat and there's definitely strategy to playing it. I just typically like it when story and strategy go hand in hand.
Oh,
when
yeah.
it's like the story choices are going to affect, like in my mind, whether you chose to help that like somewhat, maybe like homeless elf sitting on the side of the road determines whether or not you have an ally in that next big boss fight or an enemy. Yeah, no, that's real. So it's like the choices matter. It does have an effect. It increases strategy.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely not the person who's like, we need to min-max everything. And it's all about like, I played RPGs in their like online multiplayer RPGs in their infancy and kind of their largest heyday. And so to me, if D&D feels like a World of Warcraft raid, it's not fun because my memories of that are more people yelling at me on the internet when I'm 14, 15 years old.
Like cussing you out.
Yeah. And like, go over there. And it's all about the combat and it's not about the story.
It's about winning.
Where D&D is not about winning. It's actually about the story just moving forward.
Yeah, but even how do you define winning when it's about story?
Yeah.
So.
Well, because I think, some of my favorite stories, because I love Tolkien, I love C.S. Lewis, I love a lot of Brandon Sanderson and different books that I read. If characters win, I kind of talk about this a lot with Star Wars because I kind of have a soapbox with Star Wars. But the reason that Rey did not do well in the sequel trilogy is not because she was a female. It's not because she was a girl. But it's because
how they wrote her.
It's how they wrote her. She was a character that had no flaws. And all she did, she's like one of these World of Warcraft raids. Like all she did was win. Win. There's no conflict. There's no turmoil. There's no bad day. There's no, we have to give up. And I think those moments of, oh no, we were just defeated. One of our players just got killed. Like, what do we do now? The big bad boss has like moved on to the next thing. And I had a campaign with AirDnDKC where literally you were kind of there for this part, but like we died. We were murdered.
But did you die though?
Yeah, but did you die though? Like, yeah, but we did. Like we were gone for 5 years. The world moved on. Our characters like had to deal with the fact that like the story that we were a part of had to come to an end and a new story had to come forth. And there were characters that were gone. There were people that we missed out on. Like there were things that like remained forever unresolved. But that kind of is what made the story more interesting. Where if you have a character, in my mind, like Rey, you don't have any challenges. Like to me, if Avatar: The Last Airbender opened up and Aang just jumps out of the ice and Ozai's right there and he just fire bends him in the face and it just ends, like no one would have wanted to watch that show.
It could have been a movie.
Yeah, it could have been just basically a vine on the internet. Like, it doesn't even have to be a real thing. But, like, stories to me matter. Like, Avatar is one of them where I love Avatar so much. But what makes it interesting is the fact that even Aang, as he goes into this, like, quintessential epic fight, he doesn't feel like he's ready. No, it doesn't. Like, and having that sense
12.
of... Yeah, he's 12 years old. He doesn't want to kill somebody, let alone, like, defeat them and...
He's a little boy, and everyone forgets that because he's the Avatar.
Because he's the Avatar. And so he's dealing with internal turmoil. He's dealing with the fact that he doesn't know everything. He's not the strongest character in the show. He's not arguably he might be the strongest airbender because he's
the
only airbender, but every
It's great
other
to be the best when you're the only
one. Yeah, of course you're the best because you're the only thing. But
Not
like
the
every
only
other style of bending, you could argue that there's a character in the series who's better than Aang at that. But that's not what makes him a great
Definitely the guy that doesn't wear pants.
Yeah. Or of course the cabbages guy. I mean, clearly he's actually the Avatar in secret, and he has all the.
I don't think there could be two at the same time.
I mean,
That doesn't really make sense with. Anyways, tangential.
yeah. What would you say? What would you say is your favorite story to tell?
I think it's the changes depending on my season of life.
It changes.
Yeah.
Well, how about right now?
Right now, I love stories that center around the messy process of reconciliation, processing forgiveness and long-suffering love. I like telling stories about political upheaval and complex trauma, I guess. A lot of it is nothing that's super unique. It's in a lot of stories. But I think ultimately I like putting characters in situations where the cost of doing what's right is really high. And the proof of their character is whether or not they're willing to pay it. And it's there where you see if people prioritize themselves or others, their ideals or others' ideals. Are they, at the end of the day, really a self-centered person? Do they live with regret after they choose themselves over other people? How do they move forward after that if they are racked with guilt? Or if they did make the right decision, are they supported? Does anyone else agree? How much conflict is there around, I don't know, whether or not it was right? Those are big questions, like if something is the right decision. And so I like watching people wrestle with those hard questions. Like, did I do what was right? Was it worth it? Am I gonna live with regret? And if I do, how do I move forward?
That's really good.
Yeah, I don't know. I think those are just the stories that interest me. I think everyone can relate to them to different degrees.
Definitely.
And what's funny is when I think a lot of those themes are being explored in the novel that I'm working on, but also I'm going to incorporate them into my campaign. I think one of my favorite things to do is to show the humanity of people that do really bad things, not so that way you're like, oh, well, I understand why they did such horrific things and that makes it okay, but just so you can be like, oh, they are a person. And just being able to see people through that lens is good and a takeaway that I want to have in real life. So
no, I think that's powerful. I think it speaks volumes. Even though I feel like you tend to be more animated and more lively at the table, I think there's a depth there that I think is needed in stories. I think it's very easy to tell stories at the table that sometimes can feel very not shallow, but they don't hit on real issues. They don't hit on things we experience in life. And I think those things that you pointed out, I mean, forgiveness, reconciliation, dealing with making the right choice or not the right choice, or making the right choice for the wrong reason.
Yep.
And seeing that play out and seeing how your characters respond and seeing even how it affects the growth of a character. Because sometimes you have characters that grow and they legitimately blossom into this amazing hero archetype. You know, you have that hero's journey.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you have characters that they made the right decision, they saved the day, they fixed the kingdom, they did the thing. But it's at a great personal cost. And that personal cost was maybe something they didn't want to pay.
Yeah.
And so they're having to deal with kind of the life circumstances of a story that goes, you know, it looks on the outside like it goes right.
Yeah.
But it goes amiss. And I think that's powerful. I think it's universally, it touches on the human story. It touches on the things that we experience as just people. Because I do think there's a push for villains to be human for the sake of having compassion on them. Which having compassion for people who make bad decisions, I'm not saying we shouldn't, but I think showing that there's humanity to even some of the greatest villains, or maybe they're not villains in the sense of maybe they're people who made those decisions because they were doing it for the right reason. Because in life, we always tend to see ourselves as the hero.
Yeah. There's that saying, like, you're always going to be the hero of your own story and the villain of another's.
And so I think you see that play out.
Yeah.
You see that play out at the table. You see that play out in books and stories. And I think that's one of those kind of like universal tropes where we see that's kind of the story that's been being told through history. And through most of the great novels that we've seen in the past few decades. But I think that's super cool. So have you figured out that for your campaign? Like what that's going to look like?
I have a lot of ideas. So I have things to use when stuff arises. But I'm keeping a lot of the doors open because I want to see what the characters do.
That's super cool. What would you say is one piece of your world that you've been working on that you're most proud of?
That I'm most proud of.
Or you're most excited about?
Trying to think. Okay. I love designing scary monsters.
Oh my
God. Not monsters that are like eldritch horror kind, but ones that feel like maybe they could exist
in real life?
Yeah.
So like
things were a little more scary.
Yeah. So do you mean like actually scary things or like I don't know, like an IRS agent but in Dungeons and Dragons?
This is the IRS.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like things that
tax.
scare adults, tax season, or the lady who comes down, the lady who's sitting
like
behind the booth.
The climax is actually just going to be that they're getting audited.
Yeah, or you have to pay your personal property tax.
Oh my gosh. No, what I mean by that is I like there's mixtures of things that are real, but obviously there's the fantastical element that makes them like a monster. I think maybe I'm mostly just thinking about like I want to show that the impacts of the monsters onto people are real. Oh my goodness.
So it's not
the
just,
words are not happening at the moment.
You're not just throwing orcs at a situation. No. You want to create monsters that meet the story.
I want the monsters to behave like creatures and not just mindless beings. Creatures with motives.
Creatures with motives.
Yeah. Even if the motive is just, I'm hungry and you are meat.
Man flesh, yeah. Like in Lord of the Rings.
Well, I mean, like, not specifically man flesh.
No, but
woman flesh too. We're not quick.
we're not discriminating. So what would you say is your hot take on D&D
Hot take.
that might make people angry?
What would make people angry? Okay, let's think about making people angry.
Or ruffles and feathers. It doesn't have to be full on anger.
People surprise you. I don't know. I guess like having played with a really good group of players, I haven't experienced this myself, but I personally cannot understand nor get behind using D&D primarily as a way to explore your darkest fantasies.
Yeah. No.
I guess that's not really a hot take so much as it's just like I don't know, maybe like keep that in the video games but
No, it's definitely
back,
adult.
full circle. No.
It's definitely adult.
Yeah, I would not feel good in my soul personally. I also appreciate when people are able to be really silly, but I also want people to be able to rein it in.
I get that.
I'm like, I want there to be a balance. Like, take yourself seriously, but not too seriously.
I mean,
mostly because I'm thinking of like, unless your character is not taking their life seriously, like most people are at the end of the day. So I feel like if you're going to play a character, play a character. Like the world is real to them. The decisions they make are real to them. So act like it. Anyways, I don't know if that's that hot of a take, but
I mean, I think it's legitimate. I think that it definitely, I think, is countercultural to what I would say is the D&D culture, especially with Baldur's Gate coming out. Everybody's like as dark as possible, as crazy as possible.
Well, I know a lot of people want to play D&D or engage with any kind of media in an escapist kind of way.
Yes.
But I'm like, let's be real. Real life, real feelings leak in.
Yeah.
Whether or not you're self-conscious of them or not.
No, and I think that's why making it about more going somewhere together, community focused, makes it so that it's not weird or unhealthy or
let's just be a bunch of friends telling a story together.
Going on an adventure, taking your first step out of that door and running around and having fun in a made-up fantasy world.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to new players, especially because you tend to be more open-minded and you tend to be somebody who definitely is not afraid to be creative? What would be your advice to newer players who are like, I don't understand this role play thing. I'm trying to get into this hobby in this game and see what it's really about.
If you're trying to get into it because you like the people you're doing it with. Ultimately, stuff like this is a hobby and it's supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
Don't just do it out of obligation. If you want to do it and you want to do it well, a good place to start is to create a character that has some core values, motives, and traits that are close to yours. If you think it would be challenging for you to act as something too far from yourself. On a practical note, it's helpful to use a voice.
Yeah.
If only to distinguish when you're speaking as your character versus speaking as yourself. So strictly as a communication tool, it's helpful. If you're too scared to do a voice, there are a lot of ways to do voices that isn't as scary as putting on an accent or doing something really crazy. You can pick a particular speech pattern or style or even like vocabulary. The probably easiest example is if your character cusses a lot, I guess.
No.
But I don't necessarily encourage that.
Of course.
I would get a little tired of it. Or like maybe your character just talks really slow or really quiet. I don't know. Anyways, some of those things aren't great for recording purposes, but it can be interesting as a character.
It can definitely be interesting.
But yeah, I think big picture, go in it with the intent to have fun, but also learn about yourself and about your friends.
No, that's super cool. I think I have just one last question I want to ask you before we wrap things up. What would you say is your... If you could change one rule about the game and enforce it on everybody else, you became the keeper of the rule book.
I mean, isn't that like just being the DM?
Pretty much, but I mean like across the globe. You enforce it overnight. What would that rule be?
Let me think. If I wanted to be really mean,
Yeah. Go for it.
just no resurrection spells.
Ooh.
Stay dead.
Stay dead. Don't have the resurrection trope. It's gone.
Yeah. I think it would affect people's decisions a lot.
Yeah, I mean, if you live...
People would strategize and plan way more.
Yeah, because you're kind of living in a world with consequences.
Yeah.
Kind of like the real world. You know, you only have one life.
Yeah. YOLO.
YOLO. You only live once.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on the podcast. You have definitely been one of the people that I've enjoyed playing with the most, even though I've only played with you a few times.
I left a good impression.
You did. You left a really good impression.
I'm talking like Toad the whole time.
I know. You sounded like Toad the entire time. But I think it was fun and it was lighthearted. And I think you kind of taught me just from playing with you that it was okay to let my hair down a bit. And even though I feel like sometimes doing voices can make me feel dumb, sometimes it really brings the story to life and it creates characters that are fun. So I want to say, one, I appreciate you coming today. And two, like, I love the way that you play and I've appreciated just observing it. I'm really excited to see. I'm bummed that I'm not able to join your campaign, but I'm excited to hear about it and talk to our... I know. I was like, I wish I could make it work, but I'm going out of town at the end of October. But thank you so much. Huge shout out to Sarah Witbeck. And thank you for reminding us that D&D isn't just about rolling dice, but it's about having fun. It's about being creative.
It's about having friends.
It is. This is AirDnD. Thank you so much, and we'll see you guys next time.